Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again. Yeah.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Rock the Boat right here on UCY.tv, and I'm your host for the next 2 hours. And today is November the 6th, 2016, 2 days before the big election. Yes, indeedy. Hope everybody enjoyed their extra hours sleep last night. I didn't really, because I stayed up an hour later than normal. Got to bed at 3 in the morning, and so still got very little sleep as per normal. But it is an absolutely gorgeous day outside. Sunny, fairly warm, 12 or 13 degrees. And yes, I'm sure there's lots of these idiots that were succumbed to the propaganda of environmental devastation via global warming, who are not enjoying the day that much today because they're probably fearful that, oh my God, it's warm and it's the 6th of November. And of course, if we go back, we see that the warmest day on record for where I live, which is northwest of Toronto, was almost 20 degrees. So the high for today is supposed to get up to about 13. So you poor bimbos out there who listen to all the global warming nonsense going, oh my God, shouldn't we be up to our necks in snow by now? No. Well, some years, yes, but other years, no. That's the cycle. It's cyclical. What's really sick is science, because science has been put forward as the new priests, and they came along with the big push on science came along with Darwin, and the propaganda has been ramped up ever since. And so, as I like to say, trust science at your own peril. If you believe science, then you'll believe just about, well, anything. And if you believe just about anything, which most people do, then you are guilty of putting your nation in jeopardy. Time we all get back to some reality. The earth is what the earth is. It does what it does, and there's nothing you can do to make it do anything else, although they try. I went up to get my coffee this morning, and the planes are flying high and spraying hard, messing up my nice blue sky. I almost wish I had, some rockets or something, We should have blow these things right out of the sky. They have no business up there messing with our atmosphere and our air and our soil and all that kind of stuff. If there's ever an indication the enemy's inside the gates, look to the sky and watch the planes fly. And if you don't get what they're up to, well, you probably believe in global warming too. And anyways, we were talking last night, Chris and I, over on Revolution Radio, about how to change things up, how to fix things. And I was talking about those videos on Australia from 3 years back, 3 years ago, I guess, almost 4, regarding local council. Now, if you listen to this show, probably ever, you know that I am adamant that you're going to have to run for your local council, whether you bloody well like it or not. Because otherwise, you're just pissing on the castle walls, and you're not going to bring down the castle, or you're not going to get in the castle by throwing rocks or pissing on the wall. So the same old will continue. So we need, people think we need an armed army. Well, they're taking us down without an armed army. But they're taking us down with an army, and they're sitting at every one of your local council tables. In particular, the clerks and the CAOs, the unelected, who are there regardless of who gets elected. They're the ones that set the agendas. They're the ones that run the show. And they bring in these idiots, and I've run in elections, and I was absolutely disgusted at the lack of intellect by those running. They're patronized, they have their egos stroked, they're made feel important, but they're really dumb as a box of rocks, and that's exactly who the controllers want sitting at those council tables. Idiots. Someone that's easily manipulated. And that's what they've been getting. And we have to change that out. And the only way we're going to change that is if we run. Otherwise, like I've said so many times, we have nobody to complain about except ourselves. This idea of complaining about elected officials, regardless if they're at the local level, the federal level, or anywhere in between, just shows our lack of intellect, shows our lack of capacity to get up off our duffs and do something. Always looking for the hero. Who's going to be the hero? There are no heroes. They're just men and women who are being pounded into the ground by these very ugly, evil people. If you want peace on this planet, you want freedom in your nation, then you had better step up, put your $100 or $200 down, and run. Now, what was brought up in the videos out of Australia was, well, there's a problem with running, and that's absolutely correct. Anybody that listens to this show and so many other shows on the internet realize by now that the state is a fiction, and that all elected take an oath to the state, never to the men and women who think they voted, who didn't vote, because the state doesn't recognize living, breathing men and women. All you're there for is to animate the dead fiction that they created with your name. And the dead fiction they created, that they made you an agent of, makes you the surety for the debt. So these bozos can blow all the money they want out the window, and it's not really money anyways, it's debt notes, but you're on the hook for it. Then we watch the nations go deeper and deeper and deeper in debt. And we watch people bitch and complain, and then they're going to vote for the other party because this party's stupid. And the other party will put things right, and, well, the other party doesn't. Puts you more in debt. And so after, I don't know how many times people have to watch the same scenario play out before they figure out there's something desperately wrong with this situation. Now, the number of people voting has dropped dramatically over the years because people have got to the point, they're going, what's the point of voting? Doesn't matter who you vote for, you get the same garbage. Well, okay, well, that's a good sign. At least you realize that. But why is it? Why is it doesn't matter who you vote for, saying garbage keeps going on? Well, because, like I said earlier, those that are sitting in your legislatures and your local councils are all a bunch of brain-dead puppets. Or worse still, they get it and they're just evil to the core. And the job is to bring the nation down. So a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to vote because what's the point? Exactly what's the point? So you need to run. Now, as I was discussing last night, those videos out of Australia, and I think I'll stick those in there, or one of them anyways, and you can go and look up the rest of them if I still have them up here. But they're actually quite good. And they're called, for those listening that aren't in the chat, they're called, it's called Pirates of the Suburbs, Destroying Communities. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're destroying communities, which by destroying the community destroys the nation. And that's the old global to local. The global doctrine, the global agendas being driven into your communities, being put into place, put into play, put into action. You know, everybody's got an action plan, a vision statement. These are all code words out of the United Nations, which was created by the most evil satanic SOBs on the planet in order to take control of everybody and everything on the planet. And it's being implemented at your local level. That's why you need to run. You got to get inside those gates. Now, one of the gentlemen who was involved in some of this stuff at the town council, like holding their feet to the fire, they've had such a free ride, it's ridiculous. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous that all these years they've had such a free ride. Well, I don't understand politics, and that's just a local, it doesn't really matter anyways. That's what's been put out to the people. It doesn't really matter. Of course it matters. It matters 100%. It matters 1,000%. Because that's where all this nonsense is being implemented from. And they work to get your consensus, even though you're not even involved in it. But this guy said something very, very important, which I agree with, and I've said many times in the past. Somebody said, people say, well, if you hate this council so bad, why don't you step up to the plate and run? Now, what he said is correct, but it's also an excuse. And I don't like excuses. What he says is they can't run because the local councils, all government politics or corporate politics, when you run, where it doesn't matter where you run, but if you run for a seat somewhere, you have to take an oath. So you win the election, now you got to take an oath. And the oath is quite specific. That oath is to serve the state, which is a corporation, which is what has you enslaved. So he says, how are we supposed to run? Because if we get elected, then we have to serve the state. Well, that's an excuse on his part. And I think that was one of the better excuses I've ever heard, but over the years, I've heard the most ludicrous excuses from people who are complaining about what's going on, why they can't run. Well, if you can't run, then you got no right to complain. If you say you know what's going on and you don't run, then you're as treasonous as the ones that are sitting in the council chambers now. Just as guilty, probably more so. Because a lot of those sitting in the council don't have a clue what's going on. They're handled by the clerks and the CAOs, city managers. Then they do the bidding of them who are unelected. So if you can't step up, and you say you know what's going on, then you are just, and I would feel safe to say more guilty than those that are presently sitting on these councils. Now, what do you do about taking the oath to serve the state? Because there's an old adage, you cannot be beholden to two masters. Well, if you take an oath to serve the state, then you most definitely cannot serve the men and women who supposedly voted you into office. Or can you? You can't fix it if you can't get a hold of the power. The only other way to get a hold of the power is to walk in, loaded for bear, and take things over. But now you got the military and the police force chasing your ass around town. So that doesn't seem to be a very positive way of going about things. No, you got to go and get on these councils. Then we work from the inside. We work from the inside. We set the CAOs and the clerks down. We tell them we know what's going on. If you try to shove any more of this stuff down here, we have the power to kick your ass out of here, and we intend to do so. So, you want your job? You see, everybody's afraid of losing their jobs. There's a very powerful, powerful tool. Now, you're either going to work for the men and women of this community, or you're not. And if you're not, that means you're a treasonous dog, because that means you're going to continue to try and implement the global agendas, which we're not going to put up with here. So you bow down to the people, or you're out the door. Now, I would be pretty safe in saying most of these people will bow down because they don't want to lose their jobs. But if they don't bow down, the council hired them, the council can fire them. And then you bring in your people. You bring in someone that you know is working on your side to be the clerk. You bring in someone that you know is working on your side to become the CAO. Now you're getting some power. And so we have to serve the state. Well, we're going to serve the state for a little while. Not really, but we'll play the game, just like they play the game that they're serving the people when they're not. And if they can be that deceptive, then we can be that deceptive. But our deception is for the betterment of our nations, and the betterment of the men and women and the children who live in our nations. And our nations are our communities. So this idea there's nothing we can do really, 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 really pisses me off. Where did all the men go? Where the hell did they go? They become so weak and so fearful that it really sickens me. Watching their nations be absolutely destroyed. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. Excuse me? What do you mean there's nothing you can do about it? Well, they'll just do whatever they want anyways. Who are they? Well, I don't know anything about local politics. Excuse. Well, we'd have to take an oath to serve. Excuse. All excuses. None of them carry any weight. None of them are legitimate. It's like a bunch of children out there. This is very, very important. The future of your families is at risk. And if you won't stand up to save your own family, well, you ain't a man. I hate to say it, but you're not a man. If the men in your community stood up to save their families, and I'm talking about saving their families, the futures of their families, and show some respect for their forefathers that came here to try to get out from underneath the tyranny they lived under in their home countries, try to build a better future for their families. And in 2016, the men don't have enough wherewithal to stand up and go run for council. The forefathers landed into the bush, probably nothing more than a broadaxe and some sugar and some coffee and some beans or something. And they busted this open so you could have a better future. We let it slip away. It's time to go get it back. If you're sitting around making excuses why you can't do, if you're turning a blind eye to what you see and you know what's going on, then you ain't much of a man. And when I say man, I'm talking women as well. This is not about recycling. This is not about bike paths or any other nonsense to keep shoving at us, light rail trails and transit systems, electric cars, all this kind of nonsense. This is all propaganda to get you out of your cars, to get you out of your small towns, to drive your asses into the city, to make you completely 100% dependent on those who wish to destroy your nation. If you can't stand up, you can't go knock some doors, you can't go have an intelligent conversation with your neighbors who are all bitching and complaining about what's going on. Surely to God, there's a few of you in your community that have the wherewithal to stand up other than just bitching and complaining about what's going on. Well, they're flooding us with immigrants. Yes, they are, because we allow it. Because they're running the power structure, not us. They're messing with our food. Yes, they are, and they will continue to do so because you ain't doing nothing about it. They're messing with our children in the schools, of course. They've always messed with the children in the schools. That's what the schools are about. They're indoctrination centers. They're to teach you to bow to authority. And apparently the school system was pretty damn successful. Because if you look around, most people can't bow down fast enough to whatever phony authority is placed in front of their faces any particular time. Well, I don't want to get in trouble. That's a bullshit law. Yeah, I know, but I don't want to get in trouble. Talk about a whoop bunch of people. Our forefathers must be just puking in their graves. But it's fixable. It's all fixable. And we best start fixing it quick. If there's anything that portrays the idiocy that's going on, it has to be this election that's going to finalize itself in 2 days. Now, whatever the outcome is, it makes no difference. You got puppet A or puppet B. You got a left-wing puppet and a right-wing puppet. And neither of them is going to save your ass. Both of them are going to do what they're told. Both of them are running down the same road. Now, the method may change a little bit. The verbiage may change a little bit. But you're on the same path. You're on the same road. You're headed to the same destination, the end of your nation state. Now, what happens after the 8th is going to be interesting. If Clinton gets in, will the right-wingers supposedly rise up. And if Trump gets in, will he shut down the immigration? Will he restore America's manufacturing base? And how would he go about doing that? The big companies all pulled their manufacturing out of the country, sent it where labor's cheap. Will he be the one that brings in the, if elected, will he be the one who starts divvying up new zones so those manufacturers that took the manufacturing out of the country can come back, but have zones set up that are outside the regulations of labor, safety, and everything else, which is already going on, but will it be ramped up? We're bringing jobs back to America. Really? Not in that instance you aren't. The jobs may be on American soil, but it's soil that's been cut out of America. Just like D.C. is not part of America. These free trade zones or these free manufacturing zones, these tax-exempt zones, these labor safety-free zones. Sure, there may be some factories set up, but it ain't going to be the American people working in them. So it doesn't matter who wins this thing called the election. I mean, you look at this thing, this is insanity on overdrive. And of course, most people, it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter if you're in Australia, it doesn't matter if you're in Britain, it doesn't matter if you're in America or Canada. Most people will tell you they don't know a damn thing about politics. Because they don't. Even most of the people tell you know something about politics know nothing about politics. Because if they knew anything about politics, they would understand that those that supposedly win the election take an oath to serve the state and not the men and women of the nation. So chances are very few people know anything about the so-called political system, or as Chris likes to call it, the system. And it's true. It's like a boil on the back of the nation waiting to erupt. Now, I just got a note from Chris that he's back online. He had some computer problems this morning, but I'm going to bring him in here in a bit. We're going to maybe continue this conversation we were having last night. And I will encourage people to join in on it. But first, I want to just talk a little bit about some of the lunacy going on here in my neck of the woods in Ontario, Canada. Now, it appears everyone is bitching and complaining about their electrical bills, and rightfully so. It was a combination of the United Nations and Enron who put this deal together, and the big investors to bleed you as they sell off our, but see, they say they're not ours because they all belong to the state. We built them, just like the slaves built the pyramids, but we apparently don't own what we built. And therefore, you know, people are crying the blues, you can't sell this. Well, actually, we can because we own it. The state owns it. The state can do whatever the hell they want with it. Now, a big part of destroying the nation state is to sell off the resources, sell off the utilities. And that's exactly what they're doing. It's exactly what they did in Russia. I don't know why this is so difficult to understand. When the Iron Curtain came down or fell, this is exactly the same template they used in Russia. And some people got extraordinarily wealthy out of the deal. And this is the same thing going on in the West today. So, call for utilities to help tenants figure costs. Why figure costs? Now, this is the most ridiculous thing that I've read for a while, but this is how the Ministry of Truth runs. Energy conservation advocate Peter Bernstein, Wright, speaks to another visitor to the long-term energy plan consultation session at the Monte Carlo Inn in Barrie on Tuesday. The provincial energy ministry is holding consultations to get feedback from Ontario residences. Well, excuse me, but if you're supposed to be the Minister of Energy, ought not you know how to run energy? So we're going to have consultations. What is that about? Well, these consultations are always about consensus and bullshit and deception and coercion to get the people to think that the ministry's doing a good job, but they'd like some input from the people who are completely pissed now and ready to go down the ministry and burn the son of a bitch out of there. This is Moen Sound, Ontario, the only major city within an hour and a half of where we live. And when I say major, that's tongue-in-cheek, because Owen Sound has a population of approximately 20,000, maybe 22,000 people. And it's the biggest, it is the biggest town within about an hour and a half of here. An hour and a half gets you to Kitchener, Ontario. A little more gets you to London. A couple hours gets you to Toronto. A couple hours gets you to Barrie. It's an hour and a half from here to the next decent-sized city. And so we're up in the countryside here. But this is written from Owen Sound, Ontario, which is the lead propaganda machine in this district. And utility companies should be required to tell incoming residential tenants how much it may cost them for heat and hydro. That's one easy-to-do suggestion with possibly the biggest benefit, Francisca Dobin said, from among many suggestions she made at provincial consultations in Ontario's long-term energy plan last week in Barrie. Now, I was asked by the, I don't know what the hell it was called, legislative committee or something, called me one time and asked me if I would be interested in speaking to the legislature on on this subject of energy. And it kind of threw me that I got the call, but I did. And we talked for quite a while, and these were younger people. And I said, I would come down there in a flash to talk about energy, but it ain't going to happen because they won't allow it. And they said, well, but you know everything about it. Well, I got a pretty good handle on the fraud, yeah. And they need to hear this in the legislature. Well, yes, they do, but they don't want to. And so I told them, if you can swing this, but I did speak at the all-party hearings on renewable energy back in 2007, and they weren't too pleased to hear what I had to say, so I couldn't really imagine me being invited down to the legislature to discuss my findings. And I never did get a call back. So I guess that's a no-go. So instead, what we're going to play is a silly game here. So let's see what we got. Francesca's presentation was on behalf of the United Way of Bruce Gray, which she's executive director, and the Bruce Gray Poverty Task Force, a collection of more than 34 local government and social organizations which has identified safe, affordable housing as a critical need. Now, the Gray Bruce Poverty Task Force is the task force that is pushing the guaranteed income. Okay, so the hydro rates, the food rates, the water rates, everything continue to climb, which drives people into poverty. So this is a perfect setup to say, we have to do something, and therefore a guaranteed income seems to be the correct answer. So all of these groups are working for the globalists' agenda. But the newspaper never tells you that because, well, they're part of the propaganda machine. So it goes on here. We have people who keep moving to try and find cheaper housing and more affordable utility costs. But at this point in time, there is nothing that compels either a landlord or the utility company to say, hey, this is what it's going to cost you, Dobbins said in an interview. She said sometimes tenants find it doesn't cost, say, $50, but $250 a month or more for utilities, so they move again 6 months later, adding more cost. She estimated that 10 to 15% of low-income United Way clients are constantly moving to find a cheaper place. Well, the problem with the United Way, it is part of, or working with, or advocating for the United Nations. So again, you see, you put these things up that, they're here to help us. No, they're not. They're to help manipulate you, to deceive you. So the hand that's out there to help you is part of the hand that's slapping you down. Two hands. Hold this hand, I'll help you up, but don't watch this one because they're going to knock you up the back of the head again. Jobs and lack of transportation or high transportation costs tend to keep people living in the same place, so people do a lot of moving in and around Owen Sound, she said. Well, that's odd because it's only a town of like 22,000 people. Usage varies, but utility companies at least could provide the monthly equal billing figures to new tenants based on the previous tenant's usage, Dobbins said. I think it would give people a much stronger sense of what they're getting into. Instead, she said her clients' experience dealing with utility companies is unpleasant. No kidding. Why would it be pleasant? They own the only show in town. There is no competition. And why do they have to be nice to you? They don't. They're there to drive you into so-called poverty so that they can move another stage of the agenda forward. And it was all legislated, and it's all a fraud, but the papers don't bring any of that stuff up. There's always a sense in the utility companies that, well, it's your problem, you figure it out. The provincial consultations began last month, and the updated plan, which will project out 20 years, is to be set next spring or summer. So they're going to project out their energy plan for 20 years. Well, I'll plan it out for in 20 years, and 20 years from now, if we don't stop this, you're going to be living in a very dank, dark, dingy, small box near a rail track in a city. That's where you're going to be in 20 years. Dobbins said all the suggestions in her presentation were well received. There was certainly a sense from those in attendance that they had not considered the kind of the end consumer. They were looking at the big pictures, so the production side of things, the wind and solar, the whole supply mix piece of it. She said innovation was viewed as technology, she said. Now, that whole paragraph doesn't make one iota of sense. And when we brought forward ideas around that involved people, there was a genuine reaction to, oh, it never occurred to us to consider innovation, like people could be innovation, right? Now they're using the people again to move what? Their agendas. Control escalating utility costs to ensure Ontario maintains a sustainable supply of affordable housing. Now, how are you going to control escalating utility costs when the OEB here in Ontario, who I'm not sure if he's moved on yet, Alex Datson was the COO, Chief Operating Officer, was one of the Enron lobbyists that was setting up the meetings between the Minister of Energy and Ken Lay, and actually getting him flowing down to see Ken Lay as they set this friggin' massive fraud up. And OEB was legislated into existence at arm's length. OEB is the board that sets the energy rates, but is completely outside the grip or the grasp of the province that legislated it into being. In other words, the OEB, nobody, not the premier, not the minister, nobody can tell it what to do. And yet it's in charge of setting the utility rates, and the whole plan is to suck us dry and send the money out to the investors. It's all business. So this idea of controlling escalating utility costs, the lady from United Way is either brain dead or a player. And she is definitely a player. Another thing, legislate disconnection policies preventing winter disconnects, which, for example, Hydro One and Unigas don't permit, but other companies do. Investment in additional heating systems, conversion programs. Now, that's the paper program, okay, which is breathing down our necks right now. And that came directly out of the United Nations. And then it was rewritten, giving a Canadian twist to it, or an Ontario twist to it, by the Suzuki Foundation, which was set up by Morris Strong and his wife's friend who married Suzuki, his second wife. So then the people of Ontario, through the Trillium Fund, which funded Suzuki, to rewrite the paper, is just a total plagiarism of the United Nations document, but to make it sound more local, paid Suzuki to rewrite it, and so that they could, down the road, throw it down our throats through the municipal level. Again, everything comes through the municipal local level. So, in what have we got here? Efficient heating systems and home insulation programs. Now, they're going to make this so you can't sell your house, okay, until you have an energy survey, if you will. So you're going to put your house up for sale. This will happen within the next 3 to 5 years, likely. You put your house up for sale, then the energy guy will come along and say that your house needs to be upgraded and will be costing whatever, $20, $50, $40, $60,000 before you can sell it, or that the new buyer understands that they're going to have to spend this kind of cash to bring it up to the standards, the new standards. Now, how are we going to fix this? You know, who's going to put in that kind of money? And the guy trying to sell the house, he doesn't have the money to upgrade it to the new standards. So in comes the municipal government, who will fund it for you. And in return, your house goes out in the derivatives market. And in that paper from Suzuki, from the UN, it states that what we're going to do, and they say they already got the banks on board. So it's all about these. You've heard about these partnerships, eh? Where we need to partner, and so your municipality is partnering with people like Suzuki, is partnering with the banks, it's partnering with the United Nations, it's partnering with the derivatives market. It's a new funding formula for the municipalities, just like this electrical system that's totally out of hand was implemented at the local level. And what have I got here? I got a notice from Kathy here that maybe she's correcting me on something, which I always love, because if she's listening to the show and I say something wrong, bang, and I love it. What do we got here? Beware, would the energy audit be required beyond house sale, i.e. including any transfer of ownership? Yeah, all that stuff. All of that stuff. They're locking your house down. But the thing that Suzuki, the UN paper, which Suzuki plagiarized and just gave it a local feel, says in there that once they get people up to the highest level of efficiency, i.e. new appliances, better insulation, better windows, better doors, once they get them up to that level, so they're going to put a bar up there. We got to bring all these houses up to this level. Now, some people will still be able to hang on to their homes at that point. Once we get them to that level, then we just raise the bar. So that you had your house up to the max level, and then once they got them up there, then they just simply raise the bar, which drives the cost up higher until people can't afford houses. And the whole point is, you go back to the 1976 Convention or Conference on Human Settlements, again, Morris Strong, Rockefeller, and Barbara Ward, and all them nutcases. What's not sustainable? This is way back from 76. These people are long-term planners, man. They're like the turtle, like the Marxist turtle. They just creep along slow. You don't even notice them till it's too late. And so 76, what's not sustainable? Private property. Why? It's a form of social injustice. Why? Because if you own a house, and I don't, and you get to sell your house and maybe profit from it, then you're in a position where you can gain, where I am not. And that determination was made in 1976 and called a form of social injustice. So how do we fix it? Do we make it so that everybody owns the home, which it should be? No, we make it so nobody owns a home. And now you're all rent slaves. And the corporation owns all the housing, and you'll get a guaranteed income to live in that housing, and you'll get X amount of water, X amount of electricity, X amount of food, yada, 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 on a card, I guess. And if you use it up before the month's out, tough luck. You got no water, you got no hydro, you got no food. Not our problem, because we figured out what the adequate amount of food, electricity, housing, and such is required. And you blew it. And they said, well, we can't live on this. Well, you should have thought about that before we got you by the throat. You should have stood up and come at us. You should have put us in our place. You should have took your nation back, but you didn't, so tough luck. And we determine what is adequate. And but we can't live on this. Well, if there was less people on the planet, then you could get more of the resources, i.e. depopulation. And you're going to have people agreeing with this assisted suicide and stuff, and people will start to turn on each other because they ain't getting enough to make it adequate, and there'll be pumped that, if we had less people, because there's only so many resources on the planet, they're finite, and divvied up among the population, this is what we consider adequate. And you'll have to deal with it. because that's all there is, which is a total load of bunk, but of course, they're in control now. So who is in control holds the cards. And they hold the cards at this time. We got to go get that deck back. So this thing that they're moving in here now is very dangerous. It's going to be sold in the media. It's going to be sold in the churches. It's going to be sold in the municipal halls. It's going to be sold in the media, the newspapers, the radios, and the TVs, that we need to upgrade our homes. And because we know a lot of people have been driven into poverty already and they can't afford it, well, we'll step forward and save you because we like you. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. These people are vipers. They're vampires. They want to suck you dry. And they're doing a damn good job of it. So, I'll carry on with this for a little bit. Increase rent supplements, increase affordable housing stock, promote inclusive rental agreements, which include utility cost and the rent. Increase engagement with community-based organizations which work with low-income people who face eviction over utility bills or disconnects. Provide funding for agencies helping low-income families manage utility usage and bill payments. Examine third-party or re-energy providers over concerns low-income earners and seniors are being taken advantage of. Review current delivery fee system as compared with a more equitable flat fee rate system. So all they're doing here is they're trying to justify everything that they've done negative to the good men and women of this province. Now, here's an interesting link down here. It says CWW News Ontario CA, whatever, it's a long thing. But this is a long-term energy plan, and this is the end of this story. For a news release announcing the consultation and links to documents about it. Now, this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. This is Ontario.ca. News release. Boom, boom. Help develop Ontario's long-term energy plan. Ontario hosting in-person and online consultations across the province. And this is October 13th. Ministry of Energy. Ontario is seeking public input to help develop the province's next long-term energy plan, known as the LTEP, to maintain a reliable supply of clean, affordable electricity. Minister of Energy Glenn Thibault visited Holy Cross Elementary School in Sudbury. I love this. So the Minister of Energy visited the Holy Cross Elementary School in Sudbury, which is a big government town, to launch consultations. Okay, I'm good with that. So Ministry of Energy Glenn Thibault visits the Holy Cross Elementary School in Sudbury to launch consultations on the long-term energy plan. Okay, but who's he talking to? Well, he's launching the consultations with grade 5 class students who recently wrote, can you believe this shit? Recently wrote to the minister with questions about energy issues in Ontario. Now, what in the name of God would a grade 5 student know about energy issues in Ontario? Nothing. But our Minister of Energy, who won't answer a question from anybody above, I guess, grade 5, because you can't go, the Minister of Energy is locked down. The Minister of Energy, Glenn Thibault, cannot phone up the OEB and go, what the hell do you think you're doing? Reverse these prices. We got more energy than we know what to do. We're spending billions every year trying to get rid of this shit. And at the same time, the prices are continually rising. I need to go and start consultation, says the minister. Where am I going to go? Why don't you go to Sudbury, Glenn? Isn't that where you won your seat in the election? Isn't that what the police are investigating now, Glenn? Why don't you slide on up to Sudbury, where you ran, illegitimately, I might add, and start your consultations there. Good idea, says Glenn. That's what I'm going to do. Book me a venue. We'll do that, Glenn. Where am I talking? Who am I consulting with? Well, Glenn, we got some letters from some grade 5 students talking about, and they had some questions about energy issues. Why don't you slide up to grade 5, Glenn? And have a chat with the knowledgeable grade 5 students who seem to understand the electrical system much better than you or I. This is how completely ludicrous this is. Absolutely ludicrous. This is on a government frickin' website. Now I'm going to put this. I got my buddy Chris calling in here, so I'm going to add you. But I want to dump this long-term energy plan and into the Chatterunio. Because I don't care where you live. I really don't care. You live anywhere in the West. I don't care if you live in Yugoslavia. The same garbage is going on. Now, where did that famous little icon go? I have so many links open all the time. There it is. And a very pleasant little logo it is, too, the UCY chat logo, compared to some of this other garbage I got to put up with. And let me see here. Let me just throw, because you can take this from the Ontario government, and you can plug it into wherever you live in Australia or whatever state in America you live in, or Britain or France or Germany, and in places. There's the same crap's going on. These are all just templated things being handed down. Now, the other thing I want to stick in here before I bring Chris in is where I just want to bring this in, and I want everybody to read it. Here we are. Come on, computers are running slow today. Let me see what we got here. Okay. Now, this is the paper I was talking about, wherever it is. Here it is. It's called the Property Assessed Payments for Energy Retrofits Recommendations for Regulatory Change and Optimal Program Features, known as PAPER. Now, when did I put this thing up here? September the 30th, 2012. And we're just reading about it, but it's not being specific. People would read that article, they wouldn't have a clue what it is they're reading unless you already knew about this. This is a little over 4 years ago that we put this up. And this tells you exactly what the game is. And, I have a link in here to the UN Conference on Human Settlements. I haven't seen this in a long, long time. I have a link to the document that Suzuki wrote, supposedly, and I have the same document. I have a link to the same document over at the UN, so you can compare them. And you will find out that the Suzuki Foundation had nothing to do with this other than putting a Canadian or Ontario spin on it. I guess it's an Ontario spin because it was a Trillium Foundation that paid for this. And there's a petition here sent to the Federal Auditor General, and I have to go look at that here, written by the same anti-Canadian globalist trash. I guess it's Suzuki and his friend. But I'll stick this in. This is a very, very important document. And you can find it on my blog at canadiantruths.wordpress.com. Just go to the search bar and put in the acronym PAPER and the word Suzuki, and it will come up. And you can read it. You need to read it. This is a takedown. Remember, I keep saying, and so do so many other people, the enemy is inside the gates. And again, it was a brilliant man, Cicero, who said that way back in 42 BC. So we've had a long time to wake up, and we've apparently been turning a blind eye, really, since 42 BC. And it is time that we kind of like step up to the plate, eh, people? We go down, remember, it's our fault. It is our fault. So that is the paper, and I put the other thing in from the government, and they're part and parcel of the same program. So it is now top of the hour, and I guess it's time to bring Chris in, and again, if someone wants to join us in this. I'm always looking for input from other people. Sometimes somebody will say something that will send me off researching something else, and sometimes I find some real gems. And so make no mistake, input is very, very important because there's always these little gems, and sometimes people they'll send me something, and I don't think they really knew what they sent me. And I'll go through it quickly, and I'll spot a name or a quote, and go and dig up some really interesting stuff. So you will never find anything interesting listening to politicians unless you like to be jerked around and get a kick out of that sort of thing. So let me see how we got this worked out. Christopher is in. Are you there, my friend?
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Christopher, how's it going?
We doing part 2 of last night's show on Revolution Radio, or?
Yeah, I put my gloves on earlier this morning. I got them laced up. I
got
I
good
don't want to
news
say
for
I
you.
fight dirty, but I put a small brick in my right glove.
Well, I got good news for you.
What's
Here
that?
in my little town, outside of my bigger town into a littler town, Amherst-View, there was a Santa sighting.
Yeah. How's Santa doing? Is he wearing
him and Mrs. Claus, along with many of their friends, were spotted at the 36th annual Amherst-View Santa Claus Parade on Sunday morning. I missed it. Damn it.
Well,
yeah. Families, young and old, lined the streets.
I'm looking for
everybody waved and gave everybody gave perishable food items to support Amherst-View Lions Club Christmas hamper. So there we go.
Yeah.
See, not all's bad. Some positive news here. Santa's in town.
I stopped at I went to get some paint yesterday. And outside Canadian Tire, which I really don't like the place.
You bought paint to erase the evidence.
What's that?
You bought paint to erase the evidence.
Well, not really, but when I went to go in, there was an older gentleman, standing there with his poppy box. And, I told him, I said,
you think Santa would at least wait until after the 11th, eh?
Right. Yeah.
But nope.
No. But this gentleman, I said, I'd like to, donate to you, but, it's been kind of a lie and stuff. And, you guys all took an oath to serve the state, not the people and stuff, and it's all corporate. No, we're not corporate. Well, of course you are, right? And he was adamant they weren't corporate. That the Legion is actually a not-for-profit organization, which in its sense is corporate. But he's adamant it wasn't. So we had this little conversation, about the Queen and about Canada, and that Canada's just nothing more than a corporation. And he's adamant that Canada's not a corporation. I felt bad for the guy, right? Because the guy is probably 80, and he's standing out there, and I'm sure he lost friends in the wars. And,
Well, he didn't fight in the Second World War, I guarantee you that.
I don't know, but he'd been something. But he was the head guy down at the Legion now. And I just felt sorry for him in a way, because he's so, it's like hanging on to the lie, right? And that's what so many people do. They don't want to believe that they've been lied to and manipulated and deceived their entire lives. And
that's why I have my whole family against me, Ron. It's really sad. I know people that are regular listeners understand this, but most people that I talk to don't get it. they don't get the why.
No, they
and you can't even with valid information convince them otherwise.
Oh, I know. You put the documents right in
that
front of
scares me.
Right?
That scares me. It really does. It scares me.
It shouldn't scare you. It shouldn't. It should.
Well, it does.
Why?
Because I got kids.
Yeah, but all my family live here. My mother and my three sisters all live here, and I get the call for the so-called dinners, be it Easter or Christmas or Thanksgiving. Other than that, we barely communicate, and I find that very sad.
Yep.
Because they're fearful that if they communicate, I might bring up something that's uncomfortable to them, and so they're quite pleased to keep their heads up their asses.
Well, they think you're bipolar or something.
Well, no, it's psychological.
It's a clinical diagnosis of a fraudulent industry.
Once a mind accepts a lie as a truth, it's almost impossible, or at least very difficult, to get them to throw the lie out and accept the truth. That's how they use the propaganda. They understand psychology. That's why I keep saying this is spiritual, psychological war. And these people have been psychologically manipulated and damaged. Most of the people walking around are what I would determine to be the walking wounded. They've had their minds exploded, if you will. And they will not be of much help. They're the ones that will grasp on to the idea of a guaranteed income. So, we don't worry about them, right? We can't concern ourselves with those who are already damaged. We can only hope that they heal over time, right? That's all we can hope for them, right? The only thing we can deal with are those who have the capacity to see and to know. Now we got to get those who can see and that do see and do know. We have to get them to step up to the plate.
Do they even teach that in school anymore? How to ask questions?
No, I've talked to kids in this town who have been asked to leave the school. They've been encouraged to leave the school specifically because they were asking questions. And that they would be better to take a, what do you call those courses you take online or whatever? Well, whatever. The courses you take when you're not in school to get your school year, right? Correspondence courses. I've talked to kids in this school that are not in school, And they most definitely aren't stupid, these ones, but that's why they were asked to leave school, because they're not stupid. And they don't want the student asking questions. And if they have a student that's pressing buttons, then that student, like you or anyone else asking questions, becomes a threat. And they got to get them out of there. And so, yeah, they're kicking kids out of school specifically because they're asking legitimate questions.
Yep, that's very, very, very creepy. They used to give you 5 questions when I was a kid. You go question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, question 5. You check one, with a check mark. So at least you had 5 options. Now it appears now they don't even have them options. You've got one option is listen to your teacher and shut your mouth. That's what I'm getting from my children. That's what they're telling me. There is no asking questions. You don't even get options anymore. It's here's what we're teaching you. This is what you're going to learn, and if you don't like it, get the hell out.
Yeah, I mean, the school is damaging to children. I was talking to Enos, I don't know, a few days ago or whatever. Now, Enos is one of the gentlemen who's been involved with Michael Schmidt, the milk farmer, and he's another guy who's been dragged in and out of court for a long time. And but Enos has his children in that little one-room schoolhouse that Michael and some other people reopened many, many years ago. And it's a totally different system there, right? It's a school where the children are encouraged to ask questions. It's a school that the kids are outside a lot. It's a school where the children are encouraged to be children, i.e., roughhouse, right?
See, the problem with that, Ron, that I see.
What?
If kids start asking questions to their teacher, you have to have a teacher with intelligence to be able to respond to the questions that are being asked.
Right, but
and that's not possible anymore.
Well, it is in the situation they have over the school. It's an old one-room school. I think they put some additions on it or something. I think there's only. What did Enos tell me he was going to that school? I think there's only 38 children going to that school. And no, that's the whole point of it, is this is a school where the children are encouraged to ask questions, encouraged to use their intellect, encouraged to challenge, and that's what a school is supposed to be. Because both the teacher and the student, they both.
Where you get that from?
Both the student and the teacher have the capacity to both learn and teach, right? Where the public school system is a straight authoritarian process, right? You do as you're told when you're told, and don't give me a hard time or you'll get a detention. That's not a school. It's a prison, right? Where the one-room schoolhouse is a whole different ballgame, right? Like Enos's children can't go to public school because 3 of his 4 children he never registered to the state. Therefore, they cannot go to the state school. Right? So it's a totally different setup. It's the same as Michael with the milk. Right? But these guys are doing it. So this idea when people say, well, I can't run for this and I can't run for this and I can't do that and I can't do that, are all just empty, sad little excuses, right? When you look at a guy like Michael who's been absolutely pounded on for, I think this is the 22nd year now, and it's all about submission, and the so-called government's pulling their hair out. They have tried everything in their power to make Michael submit and his people submit, and to date, not only have they failed to date, they're losing ground by the hour. Now, that's how you grow strong people. Now, most of his people thought this whole thing was about milk up until quite recently.
This
and they
principle
finally
of,
saw the bigger picture. Now, Michael wasn't out humping on them about conspiracies and all this kind of stuff. His focus was good, wholesome food. That's it. But after these continued raids of the farm and the jailing of people that have caused nobody any harm and this continual pounding by the courts, these people who thought it was about milk have come to realize it's not about milk at all. It's about power. And now these people are really starting to step up to the plate. So they have no hope in hell now of beating against Michael. That's all falling apart. It took 22 years. But this is what it is. This is, you have to be committed. I mean, the other side who's trying to take us down is extremely committed to what they're doing. And if we're not
you've already scared most people away.
Well, if we're not committed to what we're doing is equally or more so than they are, then we will lose. So whether we win or lose, that option, that choice is completely up to each and every man and woman in this country. Now, like you said before, most of them don't want to see and they don't want to know, right? They're happy with their indoctrination. They're happy with their slavery. So
it'll make your life easier.
It only takes 10% or less of the people to make the change required.
Well, I'd say 10% or more, but okay.
Well, there isn't 10% of them that's taken us down. The number of people working actively to destroy this nation is not 10% of the population. It's far less than that.
Well, they get all the money.
Well,
they stole it from us.
See, that's an excuse.
We don't get it.
But that's an excuse.
Well, but it's the truth.
No,
at this point,
it's simply an excuse.
You know, I got $1 trillion. You got $2.
It's not about the money. It's about the commitment.
Well, the commitment, but yeah, okay. So let's go back to Michael Smith. I love playing devil's advocate here. Let's go back to Michael Smith. 22 years of his life, and he is now breaking ground.
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that a sweet kick in the groin area?
Well, think about it, Chris. They started this game back in Rome way, 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 way long time ago. Okay, a lot longer than 22 freaking years ago, and they got us just about where they want us. So
yeah, one man. Well, you got a couple because you got. We should be mentioning others, but Michael Smith is I can't say hero because you said I'm not allowed to say that.
Well, Michael gets very disturbed because he knows
very powerful man with strong conviction who has spent 22 years of his life trying to make a point. Now, man, he lost a lot of fun in his life. You know, and that's really sad that we have to have one man do that, and nobody seems to support or respect him other than a select few.
No, Michael, life is a learning process. If you're not learning, you ain't living. If you ain't trying, you're dying. And so this idea that Michael missed out on a lot of fun, he didn't miss out on a lot of fun. This was fun. It's a pain in the ass, but it's fun. Okay, he didn't miss out on a lot of fun. His life has been what it is, and I would think that his life, I don't even know what you would describe as fun. Going to the ball game? Watching TV? Going to a movie? Is that fun?
Well, I mean...
Michael's committed to all Michael is committed to. He's a farmer. That's it. I mean, he's a conductor, and they have orchestras in the loft of the barn. They put on plays, so they're having lots of fun. Okay, they go about their lives, but they got this what you would call a cyst on their back, right? And that's the system. It's like walking around with a boil on their back, right? Now, you just deal with it, right? But does that stop your life? No. Okay, now that boil's about to blow, and then it will heal, and they will have won. And so, the whole game is submission, and the ones that won't submit, they come down on the hardest. And people say, well, look at all the trouble Michael's had. I don't want to go through that. Bingo, you just submitted. Yep. So, no, it's a long, long road. But if we don't do it, then we lose. All right? And
something so, like on a minor scale, it's the same thing I do. I don't submit, and exactly. I hate it. I hate it. Every day I wake up, this is what I think about. I want my freedom. That's all I want. Leave me alone. Mm-hmm. I don't harm anybody. Leave me.
And that's exactly what Michael's
alone.
Is.
And
I harmed anybody.
But it gets very stressful. I even got people that listen to your show and other shows like yours that I have to have arguments with. And I'm thinking, this is incredible. Why am I doing this? Just submit. It's too easy. Pay your taxes, shut your mouth, and go along to get along.
It goes back to that deal, right? Once you know, you can't not know. Once you see, you cannot know. So if you going to submit and you already see a no, then that's not a life I would want to lead, right? You want stress, you wake up...
No, it's my conscience. My conscience is what keeps me going. I have
decided that I will turn a blind eye to everything I know and see in order to be part of something that's a fraud, just so that my life is easier. You can't go there now. You're too far gone.
Exactly. But my kids aren't. They're easily manipulated because they've been indoctrinated.
Right.
So I am trying to express to them what they need to know to not be indoctrinated, and that makes my life even more difficult because now I'm stressed out over worrying about my children, and what their future holds, which isn't going to be good in about 20 years if they don't smarten up.
Yeah, but if you're worried about it and you're trying, then that makes you a good parent. Now, your kids may not see it. They might not understand it, but they will. They may not understand it or see it or appreciate it for another 10 years or so, but they will. The fact of the matter is if you don't do what you're doing, and I've said that many times in the past, if we don't stand up, then at some point, somewhere down the road, either one of your children, your grandchildren, or a child, or one of your great-grandchildren is likely going to stand over your grave someday and look down at it and say, why the hell didn't you do something when you had the opportunity?
Well, and the knowledge.
Exactly. So
that's the key here. I have the knowledge.
Right. So, I don't
guys like you and
sitting in their grave having an offspring looking down at them going, why didn't you do something? Well, I knew what was going on, but what the hell, everybody else, it wasn't popular, and what can I say? Except that I was a weak man, right? And sorry. That don't cut it in my book, right? This is a war. Make no mistake about it. We are at war. And
I agree. I agree 100% with that, for sure. Well, they're talking about at the election. What is that? The 8th, I think, something. The 8th, I believe.
Yeah, 2 days from now.
When they decide the decider, they're talking about they're getting ready for all hell to break loose because no matter who gets in, there could be some serious issues, and we could be at in a civil war.
Well,
which, I think it's all freak out panic stuff.
So
but
polarized.
But we're already there. We're already there, and I agree with you on that. We're there. We're there now.
I will say what George Hunt said. If you've never looked into George Hunt, I would encourage everybody to do so. George was a bit ahead of everybody. And he dedicated his life from 1987 onward to try to get the word out. And one of the last times I spoke, I think the last time he was on the show we did, which I think was still over in Orion maybe. He was getting old and tired. And, said, I think they're too far ahead now, Ron. I don't think we can beat them now. And we talked it out. And by the end of the show, George said, you know what? We can beat them. And I think he died about 6 months later. But we can't.
Well, he was a mentor of yours. And
well, he was just an intelligent man.
You brought him around back to where he was initially, by the sounds of it. We just got to start getting more people that are like-minded to stop arguing with one another and stop fighting, stop bullshit, and get on with fixing this problem.
Exactly. And it's difficult for people because they've never been in that position before. And, they've been weakened pretty badly. And so, our job is to encourage, to try to teach, and get them to stop being hoodwinked by the media and the so-called government. It's a very long, difficult job to do, but even here's a kind of a silly example, but when we were in court and I was talking to the head of security for the Attorney General's office out of London, and the OPP guy says, don't talk to him, right? Don't listen to him, right? This was OPP telling the Attorney General guy, do not listen to Ron, right? Let's go. And the guys, no, I want to hear what he's got to say, right? So they're trying to tag us as free men on the land shit or something, right? So, but we talked, and I took him through the history of this country and the fact that this is nothing more than a rebranded Hudson's Bay Company. It was a corporation, and it's still a corporation. And when the OPP, Mikey, came back, he said, don't listen to Ron. And the guy from the Attorney General's office said, you know what? Ron's right. So this idea that nobody wants to listen, nobody will listen, is a fallacy. There
was two cops in that standoff, I guess, that pipeline standoff. From what I've read, now I haven't researched it deeply, so I mean, maybe it's just a report that's a lie. But there was two cops, from what I read, two cops actually turned in their badges and said, I didn't sign up for this. When they were beating people up and tasing them and shooting them with rubber bullets and throwing them into cages. Two cops actually did turn in their badges and said, I didn't sign up for this. Now, that to me would be progress if that is the truth. I don't know if it's the truth.
Now we're getting somewhere. I thought you were going to tell me one about the two cops that walked into the bar.
Yeah, that other joke. Yeah.
Well, no, but they had a bet on beers, right, or on drinks, and so the one cop says to the other cop, I bet my IQ is lower than your IQ, and the other cop brought out his report card and went, "Whoa, I guess you're buying," and they had a good night. I thought that's what you're going to talk about, local cues. No, but this is what I'm talking about, why we got to get into the local councils. This is brilliant what you just said. And my uncle, who was a cop, he was a QPP, Quebec cop, and he quit. This is years and years and years and years ago, decades ago. But he quit. In Quebec, and he quit.
Most corrupt province in Canada.
Yeah, but my uncle wasn't corrupt.
Why would you want to go there?
I love Quebec.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
I like the people in Quebec.
I'm not saying the people. I'm saying the corruption. I mean, it's obvious and it's rampant. It's almost like the Mina connection with the Clintons. You know, like, and how in the hell does she get in to the highest seat in office of the world, knowing that their lives have been nothing but murders, lies, and deception? I mean, Quebec's the same way, no matter who you talk to.
So is the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
but what you said about the cops turning in their badges and their stuff and saying we didn't sign up for this, okay? Now, this is why it's so important that we run at the local level. The municipalities.
Yeah, who votes for you?
The municipalities.
Well, we're getting back into what we were talking about last night. Who votes for you?
Well, just a second here.
How do you get voted for?
What do you mean?
Well,
you go talk to the people.
Right.
You put
all right. So you're an
platform.
Okay. I'll put this as brain food for you. Just say you're an old chewed up caramel with 2 teeth left in your head, and you're knocking door to door and saying, "Vote for me because I'm pretty smart."
No, why would you do that?
Or you get corporate sponsorship, and you go get yourself some nice new teeth and lots of money in your bank account to make it all real, and then you join the
people are so
Liberal
hooked
Party.
on this. People are so hooked on this money thing. It's ridiculous.
That's correct. That's what it is.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I mean, I went to the corporate dump. I went to the corporate dump on Thursday to dump a load on that job we're working on. And Claus, who's a farmer, who is an intelligent man, who runs the loaders out there and that, and sometimes works on the weigh scales, which he was waiting for somebody else to come in. And, he works for the municipality, and he can't wait for the next election when I run. And he works for the municipality. He knows how corrupt it is. The cop
but he still works for them. Does he still work for them, Ron?
What?
Does he still work for them?
Yeah.
So he collects a paycheck from us.
Right.
But he's letting you know how corrupt it is, as he's still collecting a paycheck and working for them.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like any other.
So what's your point?
The point is, okay, they're waiting for some people to step forward. Now, when I become mayor in 2018, okay, Claus is on board with me. When I was running the last time, I would say the majority of the staff in there was on side with me. They're sick of the corruption. They're sick of it. They know what they're doing. They know they're hurting people.
But they're still collecting a paycheck.
They're weak. They're weak. They don't know what to do because they don't like everybody else. That's why they build such a huge government system so that these people won't say anything because they want their paychecks. They don't know what else to do. They do want things to change. I mean, I've talked to people in the Premier's office that wants things to change. I've talked to people in the Corrections and Safety who want things to change. They know how corrupt things are. Okay? Now, the point is, they're looking for some leadership to get in there that will start to steer this thing in the right direction. Now, the cops is very interesting because I'm going to the police board hearing on the 9th.
You'll mess with them. They make $100,000 a year.
Nucleus by now because whoever wins on the 8th, right? But anyways, they're scheduled to go to the thing on the 9th. And the whole point, the municipalities are the ones who hire the police. They contract with the police. Now, once you're in the big cyst, Once you're inside the big cyst, okay, you contracted with these police. Okay, now you have the power over the police. Okay, you're the one that can influence them. You're the one who can set them down and say, okay, here's what's going on. Okay, I don't want to see you guys wearing red high heels anymore, pulling your pant leg up like a bunch of pansies to promote the LGBTQ. And most of them will say, thank God for that. We just doing what we're told. Okay, well, now you're being told to do things differently. Okay? And they will do as they're told. They might buck you a little bit, right? But there's a whole pile of people in the police department that don't like what the hell's going on, just like you said. Now, instead of those good guys quitting because they said they didn't sign on for this, okay, we could have saved those two guys and had those guys work to help influence the other guys or point out the other ones that need to get removed. So instead of the police forces filling up with dogs, rabid assholes, now we fill it up with good people who understand what law is supposed to be about. That's how you make changes. And it doesn't take a gazillion dollars to do so. What it does is take commitment. Michael's fought this for 22 years. Okay, and he hasn't fought it like a dog. He hasn't been cussing and swearing and griping and threatening to shoot people. He's been playing this through as it needs to be played through. And it takes time. But once we got hold of the municipal levels, we got the power lever. Then we can use influence. We can get knowledge to these people. And most of these people are scared shitless. I don't care if they're cops or administrators or whatever. They're scared for their paychecks. Because they know if they lose that job, they're going to likely lose their home and probably lose their families. So they do what they do. You hear them all the time, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, we know that.
So we change their jobs. We take it from a negative to a positive. We make them happy to come to work. We make them happy to actually be turning this thing around. We get them to start rocking the boat from the inside. But they're looking for leadership. And what's being in there running these places is not leadership. So if we're going to win this, and we're going to win it, then we got to step up to the plate. If we're not,
even here, you've got your
blowing it out our asses. We can do these shows from now till they string us up, and we'll have accomplished nothing. Now there's enough information out, there's enough knowledge out there. Now, there's no excuse for not moving forward now. Okay, we've gone through the phase of knowledge gathering and dispensing the knowledge as best we can. Now it's time to step up to the plate. And we can do this. And we got to do this. Or the children are going to continue to be screwed over in the schools. I mean, that really disgusts me, what they're doing to the children. Now, we've got control of the municipal hall, you got control of the police board, you've got control of the education board. Okay? Now, most of these teachers don't want to be teaching what they're teaching.
Well, I know a couple that have admitted it.
Yes. But they're looking for leadership to come in and say, okay, let's get this figured out and get it straightened out. Let's get back.
Yeah, it goes back to your election issue, which we were discussing last night, which I find kind of, complicated, I guess.
Nothing complicated
at best, because you gotta get somebody in there that wants to do the right thing. Well, isn't that what elections are supposed to be about? Isn't that why people vote? They vote for that change. And I get the fact that you're mentioning the two-party, one-party system.
What?
Or, well, here in Canada, we actually have like 5 parties, I think, don't we?
Who cares?
Yeah. But
They're
you
not
still got to
important.
vote. You still got to vote, and that's why people believe in the vote. Well, we don't like what's happening. We will vote the bums out, and that's the belief. And that's the point I've been trying to make
that
all
belief
along.
is falling apart so rapidly. It's nuts. I mean, if you look at the number of people that vote, it's going down every year because they've given up on it. They said, doesn't matter who you vote for, you get the same crap anyway, so why bother voting? And that's exactly what they want. They don't want the intelligent people voting. So now they just got the bozos voting. And,
Okay,
and
so
both
now you're
sides-
telling me to
all- both
run
sides
for office.
Yes.
Well, how do you do that? Well, you got to get the vote. Right? You see the quagmire.
There's no quagmire, Chris. I don't understand what the hell you're even talking about.
All right, I want to go run for office tomorrow.
You're going to allow those who are trying to destroy your country sit in those seats, or the people who know what the hell's going on, that give a damn about the nation and the future of their families and that, are going to step up to the plate and they're going to take those seats.
Okay, good. Now you got the majority behind you. Okay, the majority is behind you. Then what do?
You go to work.
Working at what? You still got the same
Thank you,
system.
Hal. I want to thank Hal. I just saw a thing go by. Duck, quit whining. And that's exactly what that is. It's why you can't do this, why you can't do that. That's typical.
That's not what I'm saying. And thank you, Hal. I still love you. But
How could you not love Hal, right?
I'm not. I'm hoping to not whine too much, but I got to whine a little bit. But here's my question: is you keep saying that we get this thing going. Then we got to Ron or Hal for president. Well, how do you do that? You got to vote. No,
vote.
Or do you just say you just select him and everybody agrees? How does that work?
Well, you have to vote in this present system.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I mean, I've explained this to people who were mad
Hal
about
called me a whiner.
renewable energy, and they're
Or a wiener.
complaining. No, just let me finish this out.
Hey.
And they're complaining about all the stuff that's going on, and I said, well, then listen, if you're waiting for one of these parties to fix your problem, you're an idiot and you deserve what you get. Because all you got to do is read the platforms, and everybody's pushing the same platforms, so it doesn't matter if it's right or left, you're going to get screwed anyway. So, again, the only place to make change, the only place we have the capacity to make change is at the local level. Because at the local level, you can run for council for approximately $100. Now, anybody can fess up $100. Now you're in business. Now then we get to math, the old math, not the new math. Then I spent a long time in marketing. I understand sales. I understand the percentages. So, you know, if you're a salesman and you're selling everybody you talk to, well, power to you. You're going to be very wealthy very quickly. If you're selling 1 out of 3, that's average. It should be average for a good salesman. Okay, if you're selling 1 out of 8, you probably need to go find a different job. Okay, so we stick with 1 out of 3. So, most small municipalities got 5 to 7 counselors. Most municipalities, this municipality itself has 12,000 people in it. And there's 7 counselors. So, if you run the numbers, we need majority. Put one counselor in there ain't going to change jack shit because he only got 1 vote. He does have the opportunity to help educate people, but he can't make any changes. So you got to have the majority vote. So if you got 7 counselors, you need 1 out of 3. That means you're going to run 21 candidates. A whole bunch of good shit happens at that point. You got 21 people voicing a message versus 7 people voicing the message, which is the same message that's caused all the harm to the community, i.e. the UN agendas. Now, It doesn't take a brain to figure out that if you run 21 and you need 7 to get all the seats, and you only need 4 out of 7 to have the majority on every vote that comes through, your odds, if you run 21 people, your odds of not getting majority vote on every issue is extremely slim. Okay? You will have the majority vote in that council. Now we can get to work. Now, if we can't do that, and that's pretty damn simple, actually. If we can't get 21 people to run out of 1,000 people, there are 12,000 people, then we got nobody to blame but ourselves. Okay? This is a numbers game. It's always been a numbers game. It's called majority vote. All we got to do is get the people in there that can have the majority vote. Now we can make changes. Now we can kick the CAO out. Now we can fire the clerks. Now we can get our people in. Now we can police and set their asses down and say, this is the way it's going to be, boys. Okay, and if you don't like it, we're going to clean your house for you. If you got no power, all you can do is piss up against the wall or throw rocks at the castle. You ain't going to make no changes. You're going to go down. So for $100 a man, and probably, let's see, we got some signs printed out of Winnipeg, which really freaks me out because they did a really nice job. They caused bean shit, and they had it to us within a couple of 3 days. When you run, you've got the newspapers voicing your message. You're on the local radio stations, okay? You're at the candidates meetings, okay?
Carl Walker ran municipally, provincially, and federally.
Don't worry about those.
He got like 0.1% of news coverage.
Who?
And he went down big time.
Who's
and
this?
He was a very powerful, strong man with the same convictions as you and I. And yeah, the media didn't. They ignored him. Like I said, he got a quick mention once or twice, and so nobody even knew who he was. And then he went provincial, and he got same deal. And then he went federal, got the same deal. And then he said, "Fuck it, I quit."
What is that? I don't understand that again. You're taking a situation where somebody, one guy ran, and the media didn't pay any attention to him, which is reasonable. And that's a reason not to step up to the plate. Because this guy ran and he didn't win, therefore there's no point standing up at the plate and running.
No, he kept going. He did this for years, and then he finally said, okay, enough's enough. I got no support. I got people that agree with me, but I got no support. And he didn't get any support, so he said, well, what else can I do? I can't afford this anymore. I quit. And that's what he did.
How long ago was this?
10 years ago.
Exactly. Now, if he did the same thing today, he came out of the gates early. The difference I've seen between when I ran in 2010 and now is like night and day. It is completely changed. From 2010 to 2014, it changed huge. And from 2014 to 2018, it will change even more. The guy who you're talking about, his support base now, but see, now he doesn't want to do nothing. You know, it's like Krusty up north. It's like Krusty up north when I was trying to get him to run. He said he'd run 20 years before and didn't get in, and therefore he wasn't interested. And he wasn't. There's nothing you could make him. He's 65 years old now. There's no way. I'm not doing it. Well, he finally got talked into doing it, and a little tough love from my side, and did run. None of us got in. He got in 3 years later after they managed to run a CAO and a councillor out of town. and he got voted in 2014. And he who said, no, it ain't worth my trouble. It's not my game. It's not my responsibility. I'm 65 years old. I don't want nothing to do with nothing. I just want to enjoy the rest of my life. Sounded like an old crusty guy. Well, now he's 71. He's voted in. And he is busting his tail, and he don't sound old no more. He sounds more like a 30-year-old max than a 71-year-old man.
Good for him.
Well, that's attitude. That's being alive. You know, it's the same as Michael. How can he beat on you all this time and you didn't crack or submit or lay down? Why? Because he knows the truth. Why? Because he's a moral man. Why? Because he gives a damn. And if we give a damn, then we're going to stand up and go get this done. And if we can't do that, then we may as well just shut down the whole damn thing and go fishing. And forget about it. If we can't bring ourselves to stand up and do what we know needs to be done.
Okay, before you close out here.
We failed each other and we failed everybody in our nation. Because if
I
those
totally agree.
if those
and listen,
Chris,
it has to be
those
known.
Who know and see can't stand up and get something accomplished, then who's going to do it?
Asshole. Listen. Listen.
I heard that.
I'm playing devil's advocate here. I agree with everything you're saying, but I'm trying to give the perspective of the other side, and I hope listeners understand that. I'm on your side, my friend, and I agree with everything you say. I've just got to pull that out and ask the questions that others may be asking because they don't normally ask it. So this is why I've just done what I've done.
Well,
but I am not the enemy. I am just playing devil's advocate. Okay, let's get that straight. All right. Okay, carry on.
I have another friend that likes to play devil's advocate, right? And he was what do you call those things? He was a paralegal for like 15 years or something, and he says that to me. He says, well, let me play devil's advocate. I said, whatever. And it always ends up the same way. Whenever one's playing the devil's advocate, it seems to be a series of reasons why we can't change something. And that makes sense because that's what a devil's advocate would do. A devil's advocate would try to convince people that it's not worth trying, that you can't do it. That would be the devil's advocate, is to keep people weak and to deceive them and convince them there's nothing they can do. That is the work of the devil.
Well, no. What I'm trying to do. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not clear on what you're saying here. But what I'm doing is giving you what you would get from people that are afraid to call in, want to ask. That's why I was playing devil's advocate. And maybe I'm wrong, but you know, the people that are too weak to stand up and ask questions, I'm saying I'm trying to put myself inside their mind and ask the questions that they would want to ask.
You went simply, and it's an amazing thing about Canadians, and I imagine Americans and Australia in general as well, because we all have the same education systems and that, is, I find it that people find it very difficult to go and to speak to someone they never met before, they don't know. It's very difficult for people to just walk up to a door, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm running in the local election, and I would like to just discuss some issues that I think you may find important. Now, if you don't find these important, maybe there's issues that are important to you that I'm not aware of. And then I would like to discuss those, or I'd like to hear those from you. It's a simple case of engaging with the people. Okay? And the other candidates don't know how to do that. You know, they're running for whatever out of the student.
Oh yeah, jobs.
So
economy,
it's
blah, blah, blah.
But what I'm saying is the issues that ring a bell with people now were issues that were not talked about in 2010. You couldn't talk about them in 2010 when I ran. You can talk about them now. Okay, people are very concerned about their electricity bills. They're very concerned about the lack of disposable income they find in their jeans anymore. They're concerned about the food. They're very concerned about so many issues. They're concerned about what their kids are being taught in the school. And for the most part, they're not happy. And for the most part, most of them are fearful. And that's what keeps them quiet. So to engage with these people now, they're happy that somebody is speaking to them about these issues. They're very happy because they can't bring themselves to do what they know needs to be done. And when somebody steps up and you know, can do what they wish they could do, that empowers everybody. And that's what it's about, empowering people. I mean, I go back in 2010 when the bank IT guy who moved up from Hamilton to get his kids out of the city, his young kids, and he got that acreage, and then as soon as he bought the acreage, he found he was going to be surrounded by wind turbines. He didn't want to run either. Had a bitch slap him a bit around to get him to run. But when he did run, and his problem about not running was I don't know anything about it, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. And we worked out a flyer for him, or a little brochure. And, you know, I said, just go out in the street and say, hi, you know, I'm Steve. I'm going to run for local council, and have a little chit-chat with him. And he was fearful as hell about this, which most people are. But once he got out on the street and talked to a few people, he was absolutely amazed at the reaction he got from them. He said, these people are glad I'm running. They want me to win. Absolutely, because they're too weak to do what you're doing. Okay? And it got real fun for him after that. So, you know, you have this mental intimidation idea that you can't do this and that you wouldn't be good at it or you're not capable of it. And, and that holds so many really good people back. You know, there's a whole pile of people out there with a great deal of knowledge, as do you have, who can see the future if we don't turn things around. And they have this, this problem that, I don't think I can do this. Well, when you first tied your shoes, I mean, I use this all the time, or used to use it all the time. People saying, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. Well, if you look at a little kid trying to tie their shoes, and you look at the frustration, and you show them, and you show them, and show them, and they sit there, and they don't quit till they figure that out, until they can tie their shoes. And these things most of them can't even barely walk yet, but they are determined that they will figure out how to tie that shoe. They don't say, well, I can't do it, I quit. They don't do that. Little kids don't do that because they ain't been taught they can't do it yet. Okay, that takes the education system to teach them they can't do it. That takes the media to teach them they're not capable of something.
All right, bud. Thanks for the show.
2 hours here, my friend. I cannot believe that's 2 hours, Chris. Listen, 3 o'clock, Hal's up. Chris, I really want to thank you for that. You got me. Everybody keep moving. And